In this video, we're going to be looking at canvases, textures, here inside the canvas property, canvas color, how to adjust texture scale. We're going to be looking also at how diffusion is affected by the texture of your canvas, as well as a handful of other things related to the really powerful natural surfaces that are on these canvases inside of Rebelle 6 and Rebelle 6 Pro. So now if you don't have, you notice that I have a large list of different canvases and papers here. If you don't have some of these, you can use this Get More Papers button and get them from the Rebelle store. So we're going to start off by looking at what these symbols mean here, right here. And you'll notice that this has looks like a frame icon and 3 dots in it. That means that these canvas colors over here are not going to be usable because this one has a lot more than just a flat color. If we really zoom in here, you can see all the way at 2000%, very, very detailed texture. This affects how watercolor diffuses. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Notice how this texture plays a significant role on how the watercolor is diffusing. Let's set this just to on and do that again. This is going to flow around the texture of the paper. Let's go back into our canvas. Now, if we choose something that doesn't have, like this crumpled right here, this one doesn't have the 3 dots here in the center. That means that we can not only select it, but we can select it and we can adjust the color. Now, if we want to make this texture scaled up, we can go as high as 400. And as we zoom out, you can see what that looks like. Or we can scale it way down for a finer paper. This is great for if you're doing pencil work and you don't want your texture to have a huge influence on every single stroke. Let's reset that back and let's go back to our yucca paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn up the texture visibility. Now, visual settings, which is F12, you can click right here. At the very bottom is the option for canvas visibility. You can turn this off with nanopixel, and we can increase the visibility of the texture and decrease the visibility of the texture. As we adjust paint texture, you can see here on this watercolor, stronger texture contrast. Here on the paint itself, this top one is on the canvas itself. Let's put those back at 5. Now here you can turn nanopixel off and on. It's obviously a dramatic difference here. Let's turn on use deckled edges. When you use deckled edges, now the canvas actually does still go all the way out to the edge here, which means if I turn off use deckled edges, you'll see that this paint stroke, even though you couldn't see it, went all the way to the edge of the canvas. So let's put some watercolor right here. We're going to put some watercolor here on the left. Let's increase our brush size. We have tilt. Let's turn tilt on and pull this down just a little bit. You can see the watercolor is being affected by the raised sections of this canvas. If you click on Visual Settings, F12, and you go up here to the top, Texture Influence you can turn up, and you notice that that's going to also affect how this diffuses. All right, so we have a general idea of how this looks. Let's go ahead and turn pigments on, add a little red just for fun, and a little cadmium yellow medium. Let's use Fast Dry. What we're going to do is we're going to take a screenshot of this. We're going to make a new layer. We're going to paste this on it. Notice that the texture of the layer has applied to the pasted PNG image. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little test here. So let's hide this and let's change the canvas. We're going to make it something very nice and smooth. Let's choose this litho fine. We're going to do a very similar thing right here using our first color. Let's put some red over here on the side and some yellow over here. And let's fast dry the layer. And we'll take another screenshot. And let's do one more. Say like this crumpled paper here quite a bit. So let's start with our blue. And let's put our red and our cadmium yellow medium. You can see this one has a really pillowy look to it. And that's really affecting how this is able to diffuse on the canvas. So it's getting stuck, the colors are mixing more just like real life. Let's go ahead and fast dry right here and take one more screenshot. Let's paste that on here. Now we need to turn off the canvas texture in the back so that we can really see this. I'm going to choose white simple, put the texture scale down to 25%. This is going to give us a good idea of how these actually look. So with one paper, we have this look with the diffusion. Here we've got another one with this very fine texture. And here our yucca paper with all these long strands and fibers. You can see we get a very different look on all these different ones. So when you're looking at making your art unique, then looking at the papers here, get more papers, there is a lot of power here. Let me show you just a couple more of these. Washi is one of my favorites. Let's look at this. You can see this one is a very fibrous paper. It's going to give a different look entirely to these ones that we just did. And again, adjusting here, these options in watercolor behavior is going to make a big difference in how this diffuses. So really get to know these settings, watch the tutorial on watercolor behavior to really get a good idea of how to maximize and how to really use these to create the style that you like. Now, if you're creating a brush and you want it to have a really strong influence with the texture, there's a setting here inside of the brush creator. This is in Paint. And you can see canvas texture influence. You can turn this way down and the canvas texture will have almost no effect. Or you can put this way up here and you're going to see that the canvas really affects what this brush looks like. And it really affects it based off of these curves right here. So very high influence with light pressure, very low influence with heavy pressure, which is what we see in real life. Light and heavy pressure really being affected by the texture of the canvas. Okay, let's choose a heavier textured canvas. Paper texture contrast here, set to low, and here set to high. You can see the fibers for the mulberry paper is really affecting how this thick oil is going on the canvas. And you can adjust this to light texture, dark texture, which is going to be the opposite, or auto. I hope you enjoyed this video on papers and textures inside of Rebelle 6. Until next time, stay creative and have a wonderful day.